we're just going to talk about ways that you can actually manipulate or adjust the bill data that you've ingested. Now, you might be thinking, well, why would we do that, right? The cloud bill is the source of truth, which indeed it is. But in a multi-cloud situation, there are many cases where we might want to manipulate that data. And some of them here are on the screen. We talk about, currency conversion in a multi-cloud model, particularly here I'm in the US, over in EMEA. And when we've got those kind of non-Western cloud vendors, we might want to remove particular costs from a customer's bill. AWS include tax in their billing feed, and none of the other vendors do. And so if you are trying to compare on a like-for-like basis, then we want to kind of normalize that data. And you could do other adjustments that might be markup and markdown of costs as a cloud service provider, or for internal chargeback. So under cloud, you'll have a menu item for adjustment program. And again, you will only see this as an administrator or possibly with the manage rights. And in here, in our demo environment, you've got some examples, aligned with what we did on the slide. So removal of tax, global IT or a central IT team that is charging out cloud to its, different business units might want to claim back the cost of running the function or the IT function, the currency conversion that we talked about. But there's also a construct of enterprise discount agreements. Okay, so we talked about rate and usage reduction for cloud vendors, but often there is an overarching discount that you can negotiate with the major vendors, which they call enterprise level discount. So imagine Microsoft, I think, is probably the best example, where I spend a lot with them on licensing for my on-premise infrastructure. I spend a lot with them on my SaaS applications for Office 365. And then I've got a prediction that I'm going to spend a lot with them for my Microsoft Azure bill as well, right? So as a organization to organization negotiation, if I'm spending tens or hundreds of millions with a vendor, then I'm really looking for a kind of discount against list prices with those, right? You won't see a lot of documentation about these things because they are a contractual and legal, negotiation between two organizations. They don't well document, they're not advertising, hey, come and ask us and we'll give you 10 or 20% off, right? And some of them can be quite complex. It may be that you get discounts of certain amounts in certain regions or for certain services and so on. More commonly, they are flat kind of percentage basis. And depending on which cloud vendor, that may or may not be included in the billing feed that you get. Yeah, and Amazon are the one where often the feed that you get is list price, and then halfway through the subsequent month, the following month, they apply some credits to the previous bill based on how much you spent, and they work it out, right? There is an automated version, but they don't, they haven't switched everybody over to it. So it's a real kind of mixed mode of operations. However, in those situations, you can use this and say, okay, this customer gets this discount on this service, or they get an overall discount of 10% or whatever it might be across the whole of the bill. And that will mean that the customer is then seeing the actual price that they're paying in near real time. So if you did the EDP rules here, we would ignore the credits that came in for EDP. Yeah. Otherwise, we would be double crediting. Yeah. And there are things like this. There are a few settings that you want to kind of establish in the platform ahead of or during the early stages of onboarding, right? One is, how is your discounts presented for the different vendors? How do you want to see them, right? It may be that you want to see list price and then see the discounts come in. It may be that you've got no choice because you're on this Kerr automation or whatever it might be. So it's a bit of a question to ask. And there are a couple of other topics that we'll touch as we go through that you really want to be having a conversation with your client about how they handle amortization and EDP discounts. There was one other that I can think of, and the allocation of commitments and other things, right? And so we'll go through these, and you can kind of have a checklist for your onboarding that says, hey, we should ask these things. supporting the customer as they connect those cloud bills to understand, the discount mechanisms and the behaviors they want within the platform. The other thing to mention about this, and you can see here, is these are actually date-based adjustments. So you can have a different set of rules on a monthly basis. And of course, for currency, that's really important, right? The exchange rates will be changing, as well as for an enterprise discount agreement, you may renegotiate after 1, 2, 3 years. Your forecast for spending increases, and in exchange, you want a discount on pricing, right? So you can specify the start month for those adjustments, and then they will apply until a subsequent rule exists. This is, again, API enabled, okay? So for our currency conversion, quite often we've got customers that will use our automation engine. We have a policy that will go out to a currency website, typically xe.com we have a key for, and bring in the latest currency rates on a monthly basis and apply those adjustments for you. So again, up to the customer if they wanted to do that. So this can be done via integration. So these adjustments that you've made, once they're processed, obviously are going to be applying to whatever the conditions are here. However, you can go in both into our dashboards and in the tabular view, and depending on your permissions, you can see those adjustments. All right, so if I was to go in this particular example, let's just do a few months worth of cost here. You'll see, wait for that to load, but you will see here, I can actually see the adjustments as a kind of a list of dimensions that are available to me. And if this was loading the cost data, which then I do adjustment name, I can see the effect of the adjustments that have been made on my raw cost. So if I was going from dollars to euros, for example, I would see the original cost and then the addition or subtraction for the conversion to euros. I would see the 5% uplift and so on. So here we've got the raw data, then we've taken the AWS tax out in this example. So depending on the use case, you may well want to expose those adjustments to the users so that they can see that manipulation. But if it's a kind of markup or other things that you are passing on, or claiming your cost back by increasing cloud services or something, then you might not want to expose that, particularly in the kind of MSP, CSP space, where they're maybe not passing all of the discount on for an EDP to their customers, right? So that's why the flexibility is there.